Good afternoon, Advocate Sibiya.
Good afternoon, Chief Justice.
Are you well, ma'am?
Yes, Chief
Or are you a little bit nervous?
I'm very nervous, Chief Justice,
Okay.
but I'll be okay.
All right. No. Let's take it easy then. I noticed that one of the roles you have played was to approach the state attorney and remind them of their responsibility to brief the juniors who are not getting briefed. How successful were you in that regard? Very briefly.
This was a few years ago, Chief Justice, and I was relatively successful. But the state attorney's office have a funny habit of if you raise a complaint, they use you as the person to address the problem. So for example, in this case, they immediately gave me a junior who would be a devil, what we call a devil. So when someone is briefed with you in the brief and you both share the same fees. So that's what they did. But I was successful in the way that that meant they could, with that person, they could then never have the excuse that they don't know that person. But I also mentioned a whole lot of other people, and they did get briefs, Chief Justice.
And how successful were you in getting them to pay those who had done the work but were not being paid?
Chief Justice, that is a struggle that we are still dealing with. Soon after there's a complaint, there will be payments, but a few months after the complaint, then the problem will arise again. Even our bar council this year is still involved in that and trying to resolve that. Fee payments by the state attorney are still a huge problem.
I learned that you would pay the juniors who had not been paid yet from your own pocket so that they could survive while they were waiting for fees. For how many years did you keep that practice going?
No, it wasn't for years, Chief Justice, as and when it was needed. So it wasn't something that I did with a view to anything other than as and when someone had that problem and I came to know of it, I addressed it.
Is it fair to assume that that's an indication that, speaking for yourself, the practice was doing very well?
Chief Justice, my practice was going well in terms of the briefs that I was getting briefs. I was also suffering from the same problem of not getting paid on time by the state attorney, but it wasn't so much about the fact that my practice was going well as it was to do with the fact that I was doing better than they were doing. So I could do that. It didn't mean that I had extra and therefore I just had the extra to give to everyone that needed. It impacted me as well, but I understood that they also needed the assistance.
I've also learned from your questionnaire that you've been involved in the empowerment and transformation programs. Are you still involved, or is it something of the past?
Chief Justice, I don't think we can ever say that transformation projects are a thing of the past. So my involvement in different initiatives is not by being a member. It's a lifestyle, if I can put it that way, where we keep trying to assist in transformation. For example, my biggest issue with transformation, or my biggest contribution, what I consider my biggest contribution when it comes to transformation, is with every day. When I get up every day and when I get whatever brief or whatever I am performing, whatever function I'm performing, whatever brief I'm executing, whether I'm acting as a judge, whatever I'm doing, is to do my best, because there's a narrative that Black counsel, Black females are not competent. So each day and with each brief, with each instruction, I do my best, and I trust that with the good work that I do, I'm slowly but surely changing the narrative, and that would change the story that Black women are incompetent, or whatever excuse is used when we are not briefed.
I often get my computation wrong when I don't use my fingers. But is it fair to say that you were an attorney for about 9 years before you became an advocate?
Chief Justice, I was admitted as an attorney, but I worked at the Road Accident Fund for 9 years. However,
Yeah.
when I applied there, it was a requirement that you must be an admitted attorney in order to be appointed for the work, and I was practicing law.
And for how many years have you been an advocate?
This is my 13th year.
For how many weeks or months, whichever one you prefer, have you acted as a judge?
I have acted as a judge for 3.5 months in
Yes.
total.
Yes, I can see you are comfortable now. I'm going to have the JP put questions to you, but before that, colleagues, may I have the names of those who have questions for the advocate, please?
Makwanisha,
Matolo Dleku,
Madonsela,
Lamola, Lamola,
Shlemat Tepe.
Honorable JP.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Just shortly, your acting stints were both in Durban and in Pietermaritzburg.
Yes,
And
JP.
one of those stints, I think I wasn't the senior judge over there, but from all accounts, you did well wherever you were. And from your side, how do you feel you did while you were acting?
JP, I feel that I did well because firstly, when you are acting as an acting judge and you come from the bar, and there is the issue of briefing patterns, and what that means, the skewed briefing patterns mean that there is a certain amount of work, that type of work that you are never actually exposed to in your career. So you get to deal with concepts that you last heard in university and things like that. Considering that we have those obstacles, I felt that I did well because it became normal to sleep for 4 hours and prepare and make sure that by the time I go to court, I know everything there is to know about each matter that I'm going to be dealing with. And also from the response that I received from those that appeared before me, I felt that I did okay. I also got similar feedback from the judges that were with me at the time.
Yes. I don't recall you having had any difficulties with any particular matters, but are there any that you felt were particularly difficult for you to deal with?
By the time I dealt with them, JP, with all the preparation that had gone into it. I felt that I was prepared.
You've got no outstanding judgments, as far as I know.
No, JP.
And what was your usual turnaround time for getting a judgment out?
Well, it differs from the first time that I acted. That period, I took a longer time to deliver the judgments, so that for that period, there was a judgment that I handed down on the last day of the 3-month period. But otherwise, everything else was earlier than that. And as I have acted more, I have been giving out judgments as and when. The last time I acted this year, JP, when I finished the acting, I did not have any outstanding judgments.
And I think you one of the few acting judges that during, was your second stint, that had a judgment go up to the Constitutional Court. Is that correct?
In my first,
It was your first stint?
yes, yes.
They took you
yes.
up to the Constitutional Court.
Yes, though, although the Constitutional Court was not very kind to me, but yes,
But other than that, you managed quite well.
yes, yes, JP.
Yes. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, Judge President. Honorable MEC.
Thank you so much, Chief Justice, and good afternoon, Advocate C Sibiya.
Good afternoon.
On the issues of empowerment initiatives that you have participated on, which ones can you say were successful?
Well, it is actually a dual empowerment initiative where I believe I empowered and was also empowered. I don't think it appears in my application, but for example, when we were advocates and we were starting out, one of the leading senior counsels was retiring from practice, and I was approached by another Black female who was senior to me to take over that section that he had been occupying, and for us to form a group of advocates. And she and I, and in fact, there were two ladies, one was junior to me and one was senior to me. We started this group, which has in the end produced, that lady subsequently became senior counsel, and she has acted. I have acted. She assisted me when I was preparing to act, and we also had another acting judge. But my biggest success story in terms of empowerment is in relation to another junior lady that who started practice, and when she started, I allowed her to share my chambers and for a year, for that first year. And also that helped her with how to run practice. And I am proud to say that she's still in practice and doing very well. She's a Black female. And when I started practice at the bar, there were, in terms of African females, there were 6. And because they were leaving, the difficulties with finances and with the work meant that people left because they couldn't sustain their practices. So this lady that I assisted did not have a background where she could call home for assistance. So I believe that what she learned during that period in terms of work ethic, because also she was coming out of university, so she had never been employed in addition to everything else. I believe that is my biggest contribution.
Insofar as transformation,
Yes.
what areas do you think demands more attention in order to complete the project of transformation in the judiciary system?
In the judiciary?
Yes.
Okay. I believe that to complete the transformation of the judiciary, unfortunately, in my division, the division that I'm applying to, I'm not aware of training programs for aspirant judges and women and any such thing. And before I acted, I had never received any training that is geared towards someone becoming a judge. And in fact, we received training this year of the SAGEL aspirant judges course. That's when we received it. It was this year for the first time. So I think the transformation needs can be addressed by offering more training to people that are still not even considering acting yet, but identifying people with an interest, with that desire to serve, and giving them the necessary training so that when it comes to this moment, you have a number of people that can actually be appointed to the bench.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you, MSc. Honorable Magwanisha.
Chief Justice, can I just make a follow-up, then I'll forfeit my slot.
Yes, please go ahead, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Advocate Sibiya.
Good afternoon.
I really want to applaud you for taking up the fight for transformation of women. But what I just wanted to find out from you, the fight is still on. It hasn't, you know. But what do you think now that you want to jump ship? What do you think we can do to fast track this fight? Because, you know, it's just taking too long for the powers that we understand that it's a fight.
Yes. I think there needs to be a will, unfortunately, and that will needs to be with the attorneys, the will to transform, unfortunately, because even though I have been fortunate and I have got good briefs in my career, and there's still, the briefs come only from certain firms and the state. And you will find that people will know you are there. They will know you do a good job, but they just won't brief you. Because I don't want to say because I am Black or because I am female, but sometimes you can't help but think that that is the reason. So it has to be a change of will. And that's why I was saying that for me, with each day that I perform and that I execute whatever brief I'm given, I'm hoping that that will change how Black women in particular are viewed. And I believe that it needs to be us also as ladies that are championing the fight. So, for example, for us to bring in other females into our matters, so that we expose them to the work and expose them to the people that will potentially brief them.
Thank you, CJ. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Honorable Magwanisha.
Thank you very much, CJ. Good afternoon, Advocate Sibiya.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for the good work. But my question is, when you help these pupils and recently qualified advocates, do you take them through the same value systems you have? Or you just assist them, hoping that they will, that value system will be assimilated? Do you take them through?
I believe that by the best way to lead is by example. So I don't necessarily say, don't forget others, make sure you teach others. I don't do that, but I believe that the best way is to be a good example.
maybe a combination of both?
Yes, yes. When you have a pupil, like at the moment, I have a pupil and it's a black lady. The pupil gets the benefit, the full benefit, because I am a mother and I like telling people what to do and why. So as a result, if you are a pupil with me or a pupil in my group, you get the benefit of both.
No, thank you very much. I'll just would like to ask you two or three questions on the same issue. As the Bar Association of KwaZulu-Natal, or as a group, have you done any form of survey of the impact of late payments of advocates, especially your junior advocates by the state in particular? And because at face value, you would conclude that if you are paid late, you are more likely to take loans, and loans attract interest. But have you been able to do any kind of a study to say how many of them have left because of late payment, and how many have left the profession because they're not getting briefs?
I don't believe that there's ever been a formal study of that nature. Every year that is undertaken, a study to find out how people are doing in terms of payment, especially late payments, are conducted. I was not part of the Bar Council last year. One of your commissioners was the chairman at the time, and they introduced a system in terms of which they allowed the sharing of chambers, which is something that is not normally allowed, in order to assist other people. And that was mainly because of COVID, and there were various other measures that were put in place because of COVID. But each year, for the past, I don't remember how many number of years, but at the time, Advocate Ngalwana was the chairperson of the GCB. From that period until now, the Bar Council actively seeks to ensure the payment of juniors, especially by the state, is timeless. So every now and again, in fact, last week or the beginning of this week, there was another circular for people to inform the Bar Council if they are having difficulties with payments of their fees by the state.
Last question, CJ. Do you think this late payment, is it because of capacity problems or is it malicious?
I'll go with option C. I wouldn't want to think it's malicious. I think it is mostly a lack of empathy, that when they don't realize the actual crippling impact it has on people when you pay them late for work that they have done. So I don't think it's malicious, but I think there's just that, because they get paid monthly whether they work or not, so they can't empathize.
Thank you very much, Advocate Sibiya, and thank you very much, CJ.
Thank you, Honorable Magwanisha. Commissioner Lepu.
Thank you, CJ. I forfeited my slot because I did a follow-up of what I wanted to ask.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Advocate Madonsela C.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Good afternoon, Advocate Sibiya.
Good afternoon.
Unfortunately, contrary to your request that I should not say anything and ask you any questions today, I have to do it in the exercise of my duties. Firstly, a disclaimer, you are my colleague and friend, and we are in the same group. That's why you made the request. But lest there be any doubt amongst the commissioner's mind, you delivered a judgment which the JP asked you about in the varsity college matter. which went all the way to the Constitutional Court. In that case, you found, did you not, that the approach of the Law Society and in refusing to recognize the LLB from Varsity College was wrong and unconstitutional. You ultimately declared that statute unconstitutional, and it went to the Constitutional Court for confirmation. And you say today that the Constitutional Court was not kind to you, but it's not so much that the Constitutional Court differed with you on the result. It just did not agree with you with the approach. It rather approached the matter from a interpretational aspect rather than confirmation of declaration of invalidity. Is that not correct?
It's such a difficult question to answer right now because the Chief Justice penned the judgment that I'm complaining about. So we have that difficulty. But in effect, what the Constitutional Court differed with me on, and this is the Chief Justice's main judgment, was my approach in the interpretation, in that he felt that I had interpreted the Higher Education Act, which was not challenged, and that I should not even have gone there. I am happy to say that there was a second judgment which said that my approach was actually not wrong and had been followed previously by the Constitutional Court, although at the end she also agreed that I did not have to strike down the legislation. So I appreciated that. The reason that I say they were harsh is because I felt that the judgment could have been written the way it was written in the second judgment. So.
Thank you.
For what it is worth, Advocate Sibiya, the Honorable Minister is here. He has practiced as an attorney and is a double master's holder. He thought your judgment was so right that he immediately undertook to cause the necessary legislative amendments to be made. The Law Society, the Legal Practice Council agreed with you. Their advocate agreed with you. You went out of your way to make sure that justice was done as you saw it. I don't think you should be as harsh on yourself as you are now being. You actually did well. You grappled with the issues from a constitutional perspective. That's why you found that the section was unconstitutional. I think you are being unduly hard on yourself. Anyway, Honorable Barna.
Chief Justice, on that
yes,
aspect,
sir.
On that aspect, I wanted to address it the way you did, that she's too harsh on herself because she did very well on that judgment. But then I wanted just to correct, it is not Varsity College, but it is the Independent Institute of Education. Thank you.
That is Varsity College.
It is Varsity College. It's used interchangeably.
Oh, okay, if that is the issue, because I thought a Varsity College affiliate to this body as one of the education institution. If that is the issue, then I got it wrong, but I thought that is how it is. Thank you, CJ.
Thank you, sir. Institute of Education Pty Limited, but it's also referred to as Varsity College in the course of a judgment. Commissioner Barnard?
Yes, thank you, Chief Justice. I think they own the Varsity College. That's why they refer to it like that. Correct. Also on that, if I can maybe comment also, Advocate Sibiya, good afternoon. I think what's important is many young students were assisted, or people that had to start out the law practice soon were assisted in that matter. So it gave hope to people, if I can put it that way. If you had to choose, I'd like to ask you, if you had to choose between speed and thoroughness, I'm just trying to test the priority or your approach to judgments. Between speed and thoroughness in your judgments, which one would you opt for and why?
I don't believe that it's one or the other. I believe the work of a judge is, I want to say, 24 hours a day. So there's this nice phrase that we all grew up hearing, which is justice delayed is justice denied. But in order to get to what is justice, you need to be thorough. So to me, it's not one or the other.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you very much, sir. Honorable Minister.
Yeah, thank you, CJ, and good afternoon, Advocate.
Good afternoon, Minister.
I'm a bit curious here. I see that you also chaired, you also were chairperson of an internal appeal of a disciplinary inquiry for KZN All Boys Private School. How did that work?
It's an internal inquiry, but they choose an external chairperson. So that's how it works. Not that it becomes an external inquiry.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
No, that's fine. I was just curious that I see it's an all boys school.
No.
But my question relates to the work you did for the Seriti Commission of Inquiry. I know it might dampen your spirit, but given the prevailing currently Commission of Inquiry into state capture, what lessons do you think you learned there which could be helpful for the current Commission of Inquiry that is sitting on state capture?
Minister, that's a difficult one to answer simply because I was part of the arms deal inquiry and I am part of the state capture Commission of Inquiry. But the lessons that we learned, that I learned, that I felt are applicable and are in fact not being repeated in the current Commission of Inquiry is that the chairperson's role versus the independence of the council that are employed to lead the evidence. In the previous one, I felt that was blurred. In the current one, despite what appears in the media, I am not finding it there. I'm not finding that the lines are blurred. There is independence that is given to council.
Okay, no, that's fine. Maybe as a bit of a follow-up for us, as we look at the commission and we support its work, we are just worried about the overriding costs that we are dealing with as a department. You might be aware now that we're dealing with issues of extending the budgets and so forth. What could you advise the Department of Justice in future as we formulate commissions of inquiries in terms of reference so that we don't have them going on, and also the costs are still within manageable limits?
My personal view would be that it would be better if the fees, because I believe that the issue, the highest cost would be the fees of counsel. And I am not going to be popular for what I'm about to say, but I believe that just as serving on the bench, a commission of inquiry is a service to the country. So I don't believe that people should not be allowed to make a living, But for those that know, or rather for the benefit of those that don't know, advocates charge per hour and per day for the work that they do on an ordinary brief, on whatever brief they have. But the benefit of a commission of inquiry is that you get to charge for every hour that you work, which you actually can't do in practice because the fees would be astronomical. So in a commission of inquiry, what we were able to do was charge for all the hours that we work. Now, I'm not saying that that is a bad thing, but it does amount to a nice sum at the end of the month than if you were in practice. So my recommendation would be that a discussion is had with the people prior to appointing them to a commission of inquiry, and to get a similar understanding that this is actually a service to the country and that there will be some extra benefit as opposed to what you would be getting in practice, so that a fee arrangement that would limit in certain respects the costs, I would recommend something like that.
We are going to use this recording for the negotiations.
Can I have a follow-up, CJ?
CJ, thank you. That was my other question would have been about the varsity college, but I think it has been traversed enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
Can I have a
Thank you,
follow-up?
Minister. Yes, Advocate Mpofu, I haven't heard you throughout the day. I thought you were not here.
No, I'm contemplating, CJ. I'm here. Chief Justice, I'm sorry, good evening, afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thanks. Yeah, well, since you already looks like you are prepared to be unpopular, I have to ask you a question which I didn't want to ask you because I thought you are scared of being unpopular. What do you think of the, and I take your point about commissions and limiting the fees in particular, but what do you think about, since you are a champion of briefing patterns, what do you think about the briefing patterns in the commission that you are in now? Where there are 7 white male senior counsel.
I do not know the reasons why there are 7 white male senior counsel as opposed to other people. By the time that I joined, a number of the senior Black counsel that had been there had left by that time.
Oh, I see. You haven't been there since the beginning.
No. I only joined December 2019. Yes.
Okay. Well, irrespective of that, what do you think of like a situation you found there?
It is discouraging.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Justice.
Thank you so much, Silk. Prof.
Thank you, CJ. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Will
Prof.
you share your judicial philosophy with us?
When you ask a question like that, I feel like you expect a very sophisticated answer.
Doesn't have to be.
But basically, I believe there's wrong and there's right. And I believe that it is the job of the judge to correct the wrongs and make them right. And I believe that in undertaking that process, one must have regard to the Constitution and the laws. So those determine what is right and what is wrong and how the wrong must be corrected. So I believe in justice.
Thanks very much. Thank you, CJ.
Thank you, Prof. Commissioner Tsepe.
Thank you, CJ. Good afternoon, Advocate Sibiya.
Good afternoon.
I just want to commend you on the work you have been doing mentoring younger women who are coming into the bar. It's a very good work, and hope you continue to do it, even if you are appointed onto the bench.
Thank you.
My question was, what do you think could be done to assist newly appointed judges to settle into their new roles in terms of running courts and writing judgments once they are appointed?
Thank you. I already indicated that I'm not aware of a program in KwaZulu-Natal for those that are going to act. So there might be a program for those that have just been appointed. But I believe that what should happen is something that I heard when I was every now and again listening to the interviews during the week, where I heard in one division they have a standing Friday training session. So things like that I thought make a lot of sense. But I actually believe that the greatest assistance that you can give is to expose the judges to the difficult cases and offer to assist them where they find difficulty, because I don't believe that we should approach newly appointed judges as judges that don't know the work. I believe that we should approach them as people that are competent and capable. And I don't believe anything trumps experience.
Thank you, CJ. Thank you, Advocate Sibiya.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You are excused, Advocate.
Thank you, CJ, and thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.